Good morning guys, I'm Chris and welcome back to another sunny episode of Rift Amps. Look, I found a horse. I can't remember what this horse's name is. It's a beautiful thing though. Hello? Hello? Gorgeous thing. Look. What are you doing? You interested in valve amplifiers? Oh, there's a cow up there too, look. What are you up to? Okay, no change on Shakespeare's Princeton, which is not good news. Because I don't like this. Because the customer is adamant that it was playing up and it consistently did it after a period of time. Well, I have abused this thing far beyond anything it would go through on stage, under hot lights, all of that kind of stuff. It just works great. So what are we going to do? Well, until it plays up, or until I can get it to play up, there's not really much I can do. I mean, how long do I keep testing this thing before you have to just put your hands up and say, no fault found, take it away, and if it does it again, please give me a call. Because, you know, I've spent well over the 2 hours on this now that I charge under a bench fee. He doesn't obviously want to be racking up a bill just for me to keep testing this thing when it's not playing up. So yeah, very, very interesting. So what I am going to do, however, is we're going to, or what I have done now is converted it to 240 volts from 230, which is just a case of swapping the white with the white and black wire, P8 and P17. And it's, well, I'll tell you why. Today's wall voltage is 245 volts coming out the wall. So by swapping the primary wire, the whole amp runs cool, and we've got proof of that now because I haven't touched the bias yet, but before, when it was set for 230 volts, our bias was around 10.5 watts per valve, and now just by doing that voltage conversion, it's dropped that down to about 10 watts per side. So it does cool the amp down, and it takes a little bit of strain, a little bit of edge off the amplifier. Now, Fender on the schematic for this say at test point, I believe it's 13, which is, I believe it's here. So the bias voltage should be negative 40 volts. So we're tiny bit that side, there you go. Tiny bit under, but not enough to make a difference. So that's where Fender want this to be. 10 watts. I mean, are these 14 volts or are these? No, these are 12 watts, sorry. So 10 divided by 12, currently biased at 83%. Now you might argue that's a bit hot. If they're 14 watters, they're biased at 71%. So what would I be inclined to do? Well, if we run a signal through it now, oh yeah, turn the generator on, that'd help. Let me just get this set up and I'll show you on the scope. So that's where we are now. We'll bring it up to pointer clipping. Tremolo is currently defeated. So let's be generous. We'll just take off that peak there. 10.4 volts into 8 ohms. Call it 10.5. That's 13.8 watts, right? So if I zoom you in this way, because we want to watch this crossover point. Now with Princeton reverbs, because it's got biased tremolo, the hotter you bias this thing, the weaker the tremolo will become So you don't want to bias them too hot, because then the tremolo circuit can't overcome that bias voltage to switch the valves on and off. So often these things like to be biased cooler than you would expect in order to ensure that the tremolo remains quite strong. So let's just turn the bias pot. Helped if I got the right size screwdriver, which is, where are you? Is it that one? Yeah. So if I cool the bias off, so that bias pot is now fully counterclockwise, and you can see we've introduced a tiny bit of crossover distortion. So if I back that down, bear in mind these are rated for 12 watts, which is, we're looking for about 9.5, 10 volts output. So there's 9.4, tiny bit of crossover there. Let's increase our bias voltage just so we get rid of that crossover. What do you think there? No, it's still there. Bring it round. That's looking nicer. What do we think? Yeah? And we're kind of back to where we were. Yeah. That's the bias point where these valves are happy. And we're producing good output. Let's activate the tremolo. That's maximum intensity. I still think the minimum speed is too fast, but here you go, that's fine. That's where this amp wants to be. So let's defeat the tremolo again. So what I'm going to do now is, what am I going to do? Oh, this bloody phone mount. I'm going to stick it back in the cabinet, give it one last blast with a looper running through it, give it a proper earth shaking vibration test. Run it for, let's run it for, I mean, what do you think the length of a stage show is? 90 minutes? So we'll run it for 90 minutes, get this thing nice and hot. I'll do it out the back where the air conditioning isn't, where the aircon isn't. So that's not cooling the amp more than it should do. And if it doesn't drop out, then we'll call the customer and say, you're welcome to come and get it. But I wish we'd found the cause of the problem with this amplifier, but I suspect it's, well, I don't know. I've got no evidence to say otherwise, have I? But is it a guitar cable? Is it a power issue at the circuit? Is it something going on that's external to the chassis and the cabinet itself? Who knows? But yeah, Shakespeare's Princeton is reciting its sonnets. Right, Q&A time then. Loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of comments and questions came in. So thank you to everyone who took the time to write a comment, make a suggestion, ask a question. It's a great community we've got here, and it's lovely to see so many of you getting involved and talking about what we're doing here. So we'll start with the big one. I asked for everyone's suggestions on how you would price the repair on the power supply for that that pedal, and some of you said charge the full 2 hours, some said charge time taken, some said charge the cost of a new power supply plus a little bit extra. That seems fair and reasonable. And I had the full spectrum of answers on that. The one that really resonated for me is from friend of the channel member and regular commenter, Boromedic, who, by the way, has now been a channel member for over 12 months. So thank you very much, mate. He said, I had some pedals repaired by Owen Electronics a few years ago, and they average between £35 to £50 depending on parts, etc. Allowing for inflation, etc., I don't think 50 to 60 quid is unreasonable. And I think that's the balance you need to take. So I thought charging the full 2 hours, the minimum fee, felt excessive personally. Not all of you felt that, but that's where I felt with 2. Now, this customer has given me a lot of service and repair work over the past couple of months. So taking that into consideration, also taking into the fact that I actually got some really interesting YouTube content out of it too. And even though the repair ended up being the power supply, not the pedal itself, and was thankfully quite an easy repair, it did also take some time. So you have to weigh all of that stuff up. Now, I'd clocked a total of 1 hour and 15 minutes on that repair in total. But where that sat with me was, I wasn't comfortable charging in that instance for that amount of time. Now, I charge in decimal hours, so 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 hours once you get over the 2 hour minimum. But because he's had so much stuff in with me before, I decided not to charge the 2 hour minimum and charge just what kind of time taken. But I actually gave him a little bit of discount. So rather than charging 1.2 hours, which is just under 1 hour and 15 minutes, 1 hour and 12 minutes, I charge 0.8 hours, which worked out at my hourly rate of 60 quid an hour, £48. Plus, he also paid return postage to him. So that's what I decided to charge the guy. I felt comfortable with that. I thought that was fair and reasonable for what the repair was, what he got out of it, what I got out of it. I felt like that was a fair exchange. And so let me know your thoughts on that. Do you think I hit the right spot there? Do you think that's the right balance? If not, tell me why not. If you do, again, tell me why. Apologies that you're down on the floor, but the amp's just had, it's had about an hour with a loop running through it. And I don't know if it was my ears, but I thought I could hear, especially on the bass notes, there definitely seemed to be a lack of oomph, which was really interesting. I hadn't really heard it before. So I've just been plugging my guitar in, gave it a good old play, and sure enough, there's definitely, when the volume turned up quite high and you're really pushing the amp, you can hear that the bottom end, or actually just feel that the bottom end just doesn't quite hold it together. But if you leave it for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, something like that, it seems to come back. Now, what's really, really interesting is, can we see on camera? Yeah. I've just come in and I've just felt the speaker and it is boiling hot. That magnet is working overtime. Now, you don't normally see it with ceramics, but this is such a small speaker that I just wonder if the magnet, the voice coil and the magnet are just getting too hot and the speaker's just struggling. I wonder if that's it, but that is so hot. I mean, you could almost cook an egg on that. That's the kind of temperature. Now, often you'll see this with Alnico speakers, when you really, really push them, you do feel that the backs of them do get quite hot, just where they are. But ceramics, it's quite rare. But I think this Jensen C10R, yeah, that's so warm. When it gets hot, when you really, really push it, it just struggles. So, yeah, that's what I think the problem is. I think that the speaker is just getting too hot and is struggling to reproduce sounds, and that's where the customer is noticing a drop in volume and performance. So my recommendation to him would be to put a new speaker in, but the amp is pretty new. It's still under Fender warranty, so do you really want to be faffing around with stuff like that? But that's really all I found. But yeah, that's very interesting. I don't think I've seen that on a ceramic speaker before, but I just wonder if the C10R with that size magnet is just struggling. Well, I've just been playing the Princeton through my bench cab, which is a 2x12 setup, and that issue is completely gone. Doesn't do it through that cab, but does it through the internal speaker. So I suspect that this C10R isn't quite up to the job. I mean, it's a 10-inch speaker rated at 25 watts, although that's questionable. Right, if we come over and actually look at the specs, sorry, hopefully you can see all this. So it's a 25mm voice coil, so just under 1 inch, 10-ounce magnet. I just wonder if this speaker just doesn't quite have. You think a 1 inch voice coil would be man enough, but maybe not. I mean, it says it's 25 watts, but with a musical power of 50, but it's only a 93.6 dB speaker. Look, I just wonder if this speaker, actually, if we look at this, if we come and look at the frequency response graph, you've got quite a bit of a dip here, but look, I mean, look how broad that bottom end is from. So 82 hertz is a low E, so from, yeah, so that's 79 hertz. Got a huge bottom end on it. I mean, I say huge bottom end, but relative, all the way up to 200 hertz. That's quite a large bandwidth. And then you get this big mid-range drop-off. Look, I think it's the speaker. I think the speaker is just doing, well, it just can't really handle high power, high volume notes, and just get, that it just gets too hot and struggles. That's the only really thing I can think of, because, as I said, the amp performs beautifully through the bench cav, and it's really noticeable when you're playing it yourself rather than running the loop through it. Although the longer you run it, you can sort of hear it does struggle a bit. It's all, how does it feel? It's almost as if the power supply just can't handle, large power surges. When you hit a big chord, or a big low power chord, it just sags too much. But through capable speakers, it can. But that speaker itself just really struggles. So I think that's what it is. I wonder if this is the solution. So I'm going to go to the customer and tell him what I think we need to do, or what he should do. Keep that magnet cool, or put a better speaker in it. Do you remember we had a quick conversation last week about different speaker sizes and things like that? And I said one of the best, or the most interesting formats I ever did was the 4x8 Tweed Deluxe, like a mini Bassman. Now, Ian Jeffrey said, I use a 4x8 for practice. Awesome sound, just don't gig it as the band swallows it up whole. Yeah, I think that's the... Again, that's not necessarily that a 4x8 or 8-inch speakers are a bad thing, is that you should use what's most appropriate for the situation as well. Now, interesting that you say 4x8 is an awesome sound. Now, I completely forgot about this, but Blackstar did a range of extension cabinets. They did a 1x12, but they also did a 4x8. And I think it was for the 5-watt model they did, or the 10-watt. I can't remember. But they did a 4x8 cab, and I remember now people used to swap the speaker. I think they had Eminence speakers in there. People used to swap those out and put all sorts of things in there, and had a really interesting, different sound. Especially if you pair that 4x8 with a 1x12 in parallel, you get some really interesting tones and textures. So yeah, it is an awesome sound. I'm glad you agree. But as to your point, don't gig it with the band swallows it up whole. Maybe, depends on the rig, depends on the setup, depends on the venue. But as I always said, use what's appropriate. Are we going?
Rolling.
Noisy Josh is here. I haven't seen him for a while. He's behind the camera. Some of you complained that I keep getting Josh to film stuff. Well, he's actually a filmmaker by trade, so he's quite happy with it. He doesn't mind, do you,
I'm really
Josh?
good at it.
Yeah. Oh, Dutch. He's gone Dutch. Anyway, he's brought in something to show me. Now, this is a... is it a Vox?
No, it's a Fender, as they all are.
Yeah. An old Fender. And as is usually the case for the stuff that you bring to me, it's not straightforward, is it?
No, it's a bit unusual.
Right, so where did you, before we reveal what it is, where did you get it from?
I bought it from an amp collector in Hawaii who had it since the 80s.
Okay.
So I think he was selling up for a bunch of stuff. I think he's just been storing stuff up for decades and decades, and then finally kind of getting them up and running and out the door.
Yeah. But you didn't go to Hawaii to collect this. You just shipped it. So you bought it sight unseen.
Yes.
Or well, photos.
Yeah, I had good
guess.
pictures, but yes,
you didn't get to smell it.
No, and I didn't get to go to Hawaii, sadly.
No. I bet you that from here, well, what's it to LA? 10 hours? 10, 12 hours?
Well, that was the confusing. He shipped it UPS ground, which confused me because there's a bit of water in the way.
Well,
but it
so
flies to LA and then goes.
Florida is what, 7 hours, 7, 8 hours? And then so to the other side of the states will be another 4.
Right. Yeah.
I guess. Then on to Hawaii, which would be another. I want to say 6. Long flight.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're not going.
No.
You're not going in a hurry. Anyway, so this guy had it since the 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. But we don't know where he got it from.
No.
But it's just been in his collection. Do you know what else he had?
It was a lot of Fender heads and some super reverbs and stuff. A lot of twins that were chopped down, and it was a real mix of things. But yeah, mostly Fenders.
Chopped down, yeah. People don't do it anymore. But you used to see it all the time. Yeah. Hacked apart expensive cabinets. Well, expensive in today's.
But they weren't then, yeah.
Yeah. Just right. So he had this. Did he do any work to it?
So his tech got it up and running, and it is currently up and running now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. So I don't know what. There's a few things that were replaced on it. I don't know if he replaced them or they were replaced before he bought it.
Okay.
The output transformer has been changed, but
right.
It's a Fender branded one that I can't find online. So I wonder if it's from the kind of late 70s, early 80s, and kind of not well documented. But
yeah.
So
what year is it?
64.
1964.
Yes.
So that would put us in the brown/blonde era.
Yes.
Of Fender's offerings. And it's a head, obviously.
Yeah.
2-channel head. Output power?
35 watts?
35, 40 watts.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us what it is then.
Well, so it's actually a transitional black one. It is a brown Tremolux head.
Now that's not right.
It is right. It's not usual.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Fine. So 64. So we're talking. Transitional. So right on the crossover.
Yes.
So this is this a blonde circuit or is this a black panel circuit?
That's a black panel circuit.
Okay. So A, B, something, whatever it will be.
Or is it AA?
Could be.
First one, yeah. But that one, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not the brown circuit or the blonde circuit.
No, indeed.
But all the transitional ones were blonde.
Yes.
Factory blonde.
Yes.
So they used the old blonde shells, but they put the new circuit, because it's got the witch hat knobs on it, put all of that in it, into a blonde cabinet.
Yes.
Yeah? But, unless I'm colourblind, Josh, this is not blonde.
No.
Explain it.
This is...
Explain yourself.
This is smooth brown. So, in terms of where you'd normally see this, there were some production runs of reverb units in like late 63 and early 64.
6G15 reverb units.
Yes. Yeah. That were the smooth brown rather than the rough brown.
Yeah.
We can do some better close-ups later, but it's that smooth type.
I think they call it Nutex or something, the rough brown.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. But This is the only Tremolux head I've seen in brown. I've seen one other amp, which is a 66 Bassman from the same month, which was also smooth brown.
Okay.
So
but this is 64.
It also 64.
So the Bassman was 64.
It was early 64. It was like February 64.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I believe this is also like early 64. So whether they had leftover Tolex they were just trying to use up of the smooth brown stuff, or whether it was a specific order for an artist or something, we'll never know. But there is a bit of precedent. I've also seen it on the back panels of brown supers. I had a 63 super once, which was rough brown, but with smooth brown back panels.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
I can send you the picture.
You'll have to.
You can cut it in.
I love that stuff. Wow. Okay. So factory smooth brown Tolex on a blonde amp that's actually black panel.
Yeah. Pick a
Perfect. Love that. Love that. It's got a replacement mains transformer. Always output transformer. Yeah. Okay. But you were telling me the mains transformer or this amp is an export model.
Yes, it's an export model. It's currently wired. Well, it's currently got a US plug on it. So I think I've now sold this, and it's the new owner that's asking you to.
So it's had a 3-prong conversion.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's got the voltage selector on the back.
Yeah.
If we spin you around and have a look. There it is. It's missing the red knob. Oh, actually, I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, it's got that on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had the red knob on this era. I think they came later.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
If you do know, let us know in the comments. But by the time we finish filming this, I will have looked it up. So, wow. Okay, so it's got the factory export transformer. You've sold this to one of my good customers. So I'm going to be putting a UK mains lead on it and hardwiring it for 240 volts.
Yeah.
So he can use this, and there's no risk of him accidentally running the wrong voltage, etc., etc., etc. The other thing I've spotted on the back, which I don't think we've mentioned yet, is it's got an unusual.
Nope. I don't want. There you go.
Some
sort of DIN plug.
3-pin connector on the back. Now we don't know what that does. We don't know if it's connected up to anything.
It's not currently connected up to anything.
But it must have been at some point.
I assume
I wonder what that was for, because obviously it's not for to turn the vibrato off. Now, my Fender amp knowledge is exemplary. I know everything about them. You know, just ask me and I know it. But I can't remember. Are these harmonic trem?
No.
So the Tremolux wasn't, but the Super was.
Yes, yeah. But when you get into the black panel stuff, it's all.
Oh, of course, it's not brown, is it? It's black.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. Yeah. Speaking of the brown Super, you've seen they've just announced they've reissued it.
It'll be interesting to see what that's like.
Yeah, so I know it's PCB and it's got harmonic trem, but it's got two 10-inch custom designed Celestion speakers. Oh. So nobody knows what they sound like because they're brand new. So hopefully they really suit it. But what we do know about Fender's current harmonic tremolo offering, the Panoverb, is that it's rather unreliable. So fingers crossed this new one isn't, and it's not the same design and circuit inside. Because in a couple of years' time, when they all break and they're out of Fender warranty, guess which mugs are going to be fixing them? Yeah, I don't want to do that. Anyway, so this has also had a re-grill.
Yes, yeah. So it's not quite right. It would have been the gold sparkle.
Yeah, so this is the wheat cloth with the gold thread running through it. Hopefully you can catch that in the light. But it's a really unusual amp, isn't it?
It is. It's a fun oddity, which seems to be my sweet spot.
Yeah.
In finding stuff. Like I said, I found one other smooth brown head, which there's an article about that one in the Vintage Guitar magazine. You can see it online.
Okay.
About the Bassman. That's also smooth brown.
Ah, okay. So how do we? Sorry, how do we know this is a factory covering and not a recover?
A few things.
We should cover that.
Yes, absolutely.
Excuse the pun.
The first one is I've not seen a brown.
There we go.
Yeah, this is the key sign.
See, the staples.
The original black staples over the
and
that what is it? Is it a heat? The kind of
it's to create a Faraday cage. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's over that and then into the Tolex.
Yeah.
And you've also got the original staples on the bottom as well.
Oh, so it has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it all checks out. This strip is the same as on my 64 Baseman that you've done for me in the past. And also, I mean, I don't know if it translates on camera, but none of the Repro Tolex ever matches this properly. Like the actual shade, in my opinion.
Yeah, so...
Because I wanted to get a matching cab made for it, and I had some Tolex samples, and just nothing...
No, but
nothing's
the
right.
brown is very pink when it's new.
Right.
And then UV ages it quite quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
so because I do a lot of brown amps.
Yeah.
And when they come in and you remove the chassis, you take the chassis straps off.
Oh, and it's different.
And it's noticeably, it's like pig pink.
Yeah.
Underneath, red, compared to what it ages to. I don't think I've got any here. Anyway, that is cool. So you've sold this.
Yep.
I've got a work order from the new customer to get some bits and pieces done on it. And then, well, this is the last time you're going to see it, I guess.
Yeah, sadly. Can't keep them all, though.
What cab did you run it into?
So I have a 64 smooth blonde Tremolux cab that I use with my...
64?
Yeah. So...
Era appropriate.
Appropriate, apart from the, being blonde rather than brown.
Yeah.
That I normally use with my blonde Baseman, and that's what I was using with it. It sounds great. It's really, really nice. But I've just run out of room for amps now, sadly.
Right. Have you got anything else on the horizon?
No, but I'm sure if I do end up with something else, you'll see it in another video.
Do a show and tell. Yeah. Wow. Fantastic. So I'm going to get into this, probably not in this video, but in Sunday's video. So all look out for that. We'll get inside. I'll show you what work's been done to it. I assume it's had a cap job. So we'll get the doghouse off. We'll check out that output transformer. See if we can work out where that's come from. And yeah, we'll do some sound samples. Very cool amp. And what was the was this the original cover?
It's an old Victoria luggage company Tremolux cover. It came with the amp, so I assume it may have been.
Oh yeah, look at that, Inglewood, California.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
and it does have an old price ticket on. So
reduced to $200,
I assume. So yeah, I don't know if that is from when the guy bought it in the 80s or not. I don't know if that's the right price for a Tremolux in Hawaii in the 80s. Maybe that's another one for the comments.
When did Hawaii become a US state?
Oh, no idea.
Yeah. That wasn't in your...
Ask me about weird amps, not states.
Yeah, not about the American Constitution and its states, yeah. Okay, cool. Big fan. You got anything else in the car?
Sadly, not this time.
That's it. No. Well, that's this week's offering of show and tell. Yeah, anything else to say?
No, I will miss it.
You will miss it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, what were the speakers that you play in the cab?
Those are
we didn't cover
Alessandro, the GA...
The 10s
64,
or 12s?
The 12s. So
okay.
that's a 2x10 cab that's been hacked out, I would say, not carefully carved out, for 12-inch speakers. But yeah, sounds great.
I need to decide on what 10s to go in the Super Reverb cab that I bought from you.
Oh, yeah.
Because that project I haven't started it yet. Even though I fixed the voltage selector, so now it turns on. But I need to think of speakers.
Mm.
Yeah, there's lots of options out there. And the problem is, when you've got to buy 4...
Yeah, you don't want to make the mistake 4 times over.
Yeah, well, you're committing to a lot, aren't you? A lot of money.
Mm.
And it's an expensive mistake if you get it wrong. So yeah, I'll have to think about that. But did you sell the JBLs?
I did, yes. I sold those separately.
Those 3,
were
they orange?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, they've all sold.
Yes.
Yeah. Should have made you an offer, shouldn't I? Never mind. It is what it is.
I'm sure I'll find more. Don't worry.
Nice one, mate. Thank you. Ted Mitch says, grease on the pots. Yikes. Dave Friedman has a protocol for cleaning his pots with a contact cleaner on the flagship BE100, amongst others, because of grease knocking the output down a ton. Bourne's PDA 241 series seems to be obsolete. Yep, as I said last week, they discontinued it a couple of years back now, but they're still stock everywhere. Any others you like? In the United States, Apex Junior seems to have a good supply still. I might stock up. It's application dependent on what I use, to be honest. On some amps, I really like the Bournes. On some amps, I like the Dimpleback CTS. Now, they are actually quite a low rotational torque, so they're easy to spin. On the Ainsley Lister Signature, incredibly, because they sound the best in that circuit, in the way Ainsley likes to use it, we just use the alphas, the 24mm alphas. They just work. On some of the prototypes I used some other brands, and we just couldn't get the amp where it needed to be. Stick the alphas in, and it's just like everything comes together. So don't disregard a pot based on its price, or any component, in fact. Judge it on its performance in the circuit that you're working on. I think that's a great tech tip there. So yeah, very interesting. But it's more for the 1 meg logs, especially in tweed circuits. The Bourne's 1 meg logs are just king. They're just king. They're just the best beyond anything else I've ever tried. They just work the best. But those flat back CTSs, they've got that awful dead zone. The taper's wrong. They just don't work. And trust me, take the opportunity, swap them out, try something different. Maybe even try the alphas. You might like the way they work in your amp. But yeah, it's as I said, for me, pots are circuit and application dependent. So never disregard something. If it doesn't work in one amp, it doesn't mean it won't work in another, and vice versa. Sorry, I'm just giving this board a haircut, snipping all the legs off underneath. So, Lazy J's. Last week I said that I'm announcing my new repair offering, upgrade offering on them, where we can make you a new board, make the thing super reliable, upgrade the pots, improve the grounding scheme. If your mains transformer is gone, we can put our new custom wound UK made mains transformer in there, remove the noisy cooling fan. If you've got the 20H model, which already has the beefier transformers in it, you don't need the mains transformer replacing, but my one does sound better anyway, so you can choose to have that done as well. On the repair section of my website, the offerings are now up, so you can see the pricing. And I had lots of comments and questions on that. But the most interesting thing is, I said I've been inundated in requests to have this done. Now, I've actually got 3 bookings for J20s to come in to have the whole works done. People are fed up with them being noisy and unreliable, and they just want them to be good. So I've got bookings. Turns out the demand is there, and people want this, and I've had more inquiries as well. So I suspect over time that's only going to increase. So there you go. People want reliability and good tone. Who knew? Anyway, but Splattle said, re the fixes to the Lazy J's, would it not be cheaper just to get you to build a 5E3? If you don't already own a Lazy J, then yeah, it might be. It might be easier just to come to me and say, can I have one of these? But if you are an owner of an amp already and you've already shelled out your 2.5–3 grand or whatever they cost now, or whatever you paid on the aftermarket, or second-hand market, I should say, and your amp's gone down, your mains transformer has blown, because if it hasn't yet, it will. And you're looking at, well, do I just get that transformer replaced and then risk at some point in the future it going bang again, because it will, or do I spend a little bit extra at the same time, take it to Rift, get the whole thing sorted properly? It's going to sound tonally exactly the same way that it does now, which is what you want, which is why you love those amps, but it's not going to blow its mains transformer. It's not going to hum and buzz and crackle and pop like they currently do. And it's just going to perform much, much better, which is what we all want, right? So to answer your question on that, not really sure. Scott Howe, speaking of Lazy J, said, I'd recommend putting a modified by Rift Amps plate on the front of the Lazy J, or of any Lazy J that I do the upgrades to. That way, people who hear and see the corrected versions don't mistake them for the original ones and waste their money on something that needs to be fixed or improved. Just my 2 cents. I completely agree with you. The amps will be marked as modified and upgraded by Rift, but we'll do that on the inside or on the chassis. So ultimately, that's down to the owner of the amplifier, whether he wants something put on the front of the amplifier. But I will be marking and identifying those particular chassis, so people know that it's my work and not somebody else's, but also because I'm putting a full 12-month guarantee on parts and labour on any of those upgrades, that I need to know that I worked on that amp. Of course, I recognise my own work, but you know, yeah, those amps will be marked so we know who's responsible for the good work. Right, so that's that PR6 board now populated. You may have noticed in the time lapse that I missed off an eyelet, so I had to add that in. I've got one more hold drill for a wire pass through. Then I can do my underboard connections, my overboards, my flying leads. And that board is then ready to be dropped into the chassis once I've finished the bulk of the chassis wiring on that chassis. So good progress on that. The little Tweed 5, the 5F1 Champ build is pretty much done now. I forgot to order the rear warning plate with all the legal stuff on. So I text my plate maker this morning, and he's going to get that done for me and posted out. When that's here, I can get the rest of the amp done. I keep missing off little bits and pieces like that. It's getting really annoying. But I can get those done, and then I can get that amp, finish the final assembly, get it off to the customer. VW Baldwin, who I think is a new commenter to the channel, says, I have just picked up a not quite vintage Cornell Legacy 30 head, AC30 style maybe, from an auction that I won. It looks a bit untidy, unloved, and needs a good clean. My question is, would you just plug it in and try it out, or would you get it serviced before powering up and having a play? It depends how risk averse you are. The correct answer, of course, is you take it to a tech, at least get it soft started through a current limiting device or an Avariac, if that's what you want to do, before powering up. You have to say, right, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm not trying to scare you here, but the worst thing that you happen is that you fire this thing up, something goes pop and it takes one of the transformers, and then you are in for, you know, a costly repair. So that's kind of the worst thing that can happen realistically. So take it to your local tech, say, look, I've bought this site at an auction. I just want to make sure it's okay to use. Can you just give it a quick safety check, a soft start, fire it up, check bias, stuff like that, make sure it's good. If you're capable of doing it yourself, by all means do that. Build yourself a light bulb limiter, you know, stick a 60-watt bulb in there. Speaking of which, you need an incandescent bulb to do that, and of course they're not, at least in the UK and EU, they're not available anymore, but they're sold as rough service bulbs. You can go to any electrical wholesalers, ask for a rough service incandescent bulb, because they're still allowed in commercial units. So you get yourself a 60 or 100-watt bulb and you're good to go. But yeah, I would definitely recommend at least getting that amplifier checked out. At least having someone who knows what they're looking at cast their eye over it, just in case there's something inside that's not right, especially around the mains supply and fusing. Make sure there's nothing burnt or popped or cracked or anything like that inside. Just get it checked out. You know, a decent tech that's worth their salt will quite happily do that and won't rip you off. And then you've got peace of mind and you know it's good, because if you're going to take that thing out on stage or to a recording studio or whatever, you need to have that peace of mind behind you that it's not going to go wrong. So yeah, great question. Thanks for asking. Hopefully, just a quick one. This is a Marshall TSL 100 that has just been dropped into me. The lights are on, but nobody's home. So you can hear the amp turns on, the lights come on. You can hear the transformers working, the valves glow, but there is no output from any of the channels. So we will try and do this one quickly. First thing we're going to check is the fuses. Easy enough to do. If the thing turns on, it's probably not the mains fuse. We are going to check it's got the right value in, because it will be embarrassing if it hasn't. So we're looking for UK voltage, we're looking for a 2 amp fuse, and in there we've got a 2 amp fuse. Very good. We'll check the HT fuse as well whilst we are here. Should be a T1A, so that's a time delay 1 amp fuse. Oh, there you go. It's got a 2 amp fuse in it. That's no good. Let's check continuity. That one. Cross the fuse. Fuse is blown. Okay, so there's no high voltage in the amplifier. What did that take me? 1 minute and 30 seconds to diagnose. So let's go and get a 1 amp, a T1 amp fuse. I'm running out of these actually. Chuck that one in the bin. Stick that back in. I'm going to pull the chassis from the cabinet. I'm going to get the thing on the test bench. I'm going to give it a visual inspection. We'll pull the output valves. We'll fire it up. If the fuse doesn't blow with it, it will add one fuse in, one output valve in at a time, and whichever one causes the fuse to pop, we know is faulty. Right, up on the test bench, I have pulled the valves from the amp. They don't look too bad, but of course that means absolutely nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quick history on the amp. Apparently it's been back to Marshall a couple of times now, and I think on the last occasion it had the main board replaced, so underlying issue here. I'll just quickly show you what I've spotted. Haven't even turned it on yet. But if we come down, we look at the 2 fuse holders down here, you can see that they are damp. So there has been some fluid in there. Hopefully that's someone's tried to squirt some cleaning fluid in, and that's not water. But I have spotted some burnt components. So if we look over here, there we go. These components here. So R63 burnt, R61 burnt. And then there's another one over here in the preamp, which of course you can't see because there's a ribbon cable in the way down here. So we are, again, that's a classic example of why we do a visual inspection before we fire this thing up, because we've definitely got some burnt components. So I'm not going to fire this up now because I need to find out what those resistors do, where in the circuit they are, and if that will give us an indication of where any possible fault might be lying in this circuit. So the one over here is R24. That's been burnt up. R61 and R63. So I'm just going to pull a schematic now. Okay, so the 3 resistors that have gone are R61, which is up here, which is in the high voltage supply, one of the high voltage droppers, post phase inverter. R24, which feeds, which again is a preamp dropper, high voltage dropper, 4V2, and the other one was R63, which is a dropper for V4. So they're all high voltage supply resistors. So do we have a valve problem, or do we have something going on? But I need to get all of these replaced. So you can't actually see what I'm pointing at. I need to get all of these replaced before I even want to fire this up and go further. But yes, this will probably be in the next video now because I'm running out of time. This video is already going on quite long now. But you can see, classic example why I bang on about this all the time. Do your visual inspection. You'll be amazed at what you find. Pull a schematic and it will immediately give you a diagnostic direction to go in. GM7836 says, was that an homage to Big Clive I heard? Yes, it was. Big Clive is one of my absolute favourite YouTube channels. I love watching his stuff. I love his explanations. I love the technical depth that he goes to with his sort of tongue-in-cheek, you know, humouring attitude. Yeah. And my dad grew up on the Isle of Man, which is where Big Clive currently resides. So, you know, little Manx link there as well. But yeah, it is. I do love Big Clive, and sometimes I do try and sneak in his catchphrase. And finally, regular commenter Mike Baxter. Welcome back, Mike. You are a Turquoise Star channel member, so thank you very much. Hi, Chris. Any sign of tremolo and Bigsby? Do you know what? No. But I was talking to the farmer about them the other day. I know they are coming up this way because I'm still leaving food out for them and they are eating it overnight. You can catch them on camera, but I don't really see them during the day. Anyway, as I said, I was talking to the farmer about them. They're not kind of venturing up this far anymore. And he made a very, very good point, which is where they sort of live on the farm, their den, their lair. I mean, where do feral cats live? They're barn cats, so their barn, I guess, is next to the pigsty, the pig field, the pig enclosure, where the pigs are. And of course, wherever you've got pigs, you've probably got little critters as well. So they're that's where they're staying because there's good hunting down there. So they rarely come up this far. But next time I catch them, I will, of course, get you some footage. But they are around somewhere. Tremolo, bless her. She's the one who usually comes up this far. Bigsby, the one-eyed son. You rarely see him. He's a bit more cautious. But sometimes I catch him when I drive down that way on the way out of the farm. Sometimes I see him skulking around, hunting, sleuthing. But yeah, this time of year, the pigs have arrived, so they're out in the fields. There's of course lots of field mice and small rats and things that's perfect hunting for cats. So that's where they are. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. As always, please give this video and the horse a thumbs up, or your comments and questions down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're feeling super generous, why not join the channel like these guys have, and I will catch you all at the next one. So I think I've told this story on the channel before, but there is one of my biggest regrets in life is that one of my favourite albums growing up was Gary Moore's Still Got the Blues, and I had tickets to go and see him. And I bailed out and I didn't go because I was probably chasing a girl or something like that. But I didn't go to that gig. And then shortly after that tour, unfortunately, he passed away. And I never got to see one of my guitar heroes live. And it's a regret I've had ever since. Many, many years later, I still think that I should have gone. I had bought I'd gone online, I bought the tickets, I'd arranged to go, and then what I thought was a better opportunity in life came along at the time, and I didn't, and I went for that instead, and I didn't go and see Gary Moore live. Now, of course, at the time I didn't know he was going to pass away, but looking back now, I regret that decision so much. I never got to hear Gary Moore wail on a Les Paul into a Marshall live, and I think about that a lot. And since then, I've always made an effort to go and see these people, go and see people who you might not get a chance to see again, right? And this past week, we had the very unfortunate news that arguably one of the greatest songwriters of all time, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, passed away. And, it's incredibly sad news. I mean, what a songwriter. He was just incredible. I listen to Beach Boys stuff all the time, just because it's so good. It's just so good. And I don't have that regret that I have this time round, because in 2018 I was very fortunate to go and see him live at Property Festival. They headlined on the Thursday night. Brian Wilson, Al Jardine, Matt Jardine as well, absolutely nailing those vocal lines, and 90 minutes of all your favourites, and it was just incredible. And I look back now and I'm so grateful I actually went to see that artist, because wouldn't it be nice is probably, it's definitely top 5 of my favourite songs of all time, maybe even top 3, but it's up there. And I'm sitting here now wiring up this amplifier, making tools for musicians, listening to music on the system there, and I'm thinking, what if I didn't go and see him that night? What if I didn't? What if, right? I would be so disappointed now. So I'm so glad I did. I also got to see Nile Rodgers with Chic a couple of years back, again at Cropley Festival, and I'm so glad that I saw them, because one day you won't be able to go and see these people anymore. The absolute iconic songwriters and guitar players. And so my message to you guys is, if one of those guys is going out on the road, buy the ticket, go to the venue, go and watch them. Do not miss out, because I will never, ever forgive myself for missing Gary Moore. I still need to go see Clapton. I still need to go and see Elton John if I can. I still haven't seen Guns N' Roses live, so I need to go see Guns N' Roses. Because eventually that will wind out. I might be able to see Slash again, but not, especially the lineup now. With Axl, Slash and Duff. It's a shame that Matt Sorum isn't on the drums. I don't think he is anyway. But again, that's another one I need to go and see. I have to. So make the effort. Go and see those artists. Don't put it off. Otherwise you end up regretting. I never got to see Parisian Walkways or Still Got the Blues live. Never got to see it. Never got to hear it in person with my own ears. So yeah, don't miss out. And if you haven't got anything to listen to this week, stick on Pet Sounds, stick on the best of the Beach Boys, and enjoy.